evaluation at the end of the semester, like every artifact that we work on.
That's the plan, but your internship supervisor or your evaluator, the person that responds to you in task stream, ultimately makes that decision. So from my point, all of your work needs to get to task stream. Now that doesn't mean that it will necessarily all get to task stream for evaluation, but it should get there for comments this semester.
Okay, because I looked over the new handbook, and the new handbook.
You're not covered by the new handbook.
So we don't have to follow the new handbook?
The new handbook is for people who started this fall. I included it, as I said last week, so that you could see the section on Zoom peer review.
Okay, so we don't follow anything in the new handbook? Because I feel like I guess she's my clinical coach now,
Yeah.
told me that I needed to read the new handbook.
Okay. Now, again, that's her call as to what she's going to require. From me, as the instructor, I'm just going to get you to task stream for comments. Your clinical coach decides. Well, clinical coach / internship supervisor decides what happens with you from there. So,
okay, because my clinical coach said that there is no request comments on task stream anymore.
okay.
It just goes to task stream to evaluation. There is no
Okay.
So she won't have anything to do with the artifacts at all.
Right. So she is telling you that that's the system that she wants to employ. My understanding is we'll still do comments, but the clinical coach does not do comments anymore.
Right.
They don't do that. Somebody will do comments for you, I am assuming.
No, she said we don't get any comments from anybody. We just have the peer review and then whatever you say about it, and then we send it to task stream for evaluation.
Yeah, it's me yeah. So that is good. So yes, I will tell you when it's ready to go to task stream. That's why I said my goal is to get you to task stream. I will tell you in discussion board comments when it's ready to go. It will say ready for task stream.
Okay, so my other question is, do I still follow this timeline thing of what is a work in progress and what is a submit for evaluation?
I guess your clinical coach said no.
I feel like everybody has different answers to
I know.
all the questions.
I agree with that 1,000%. I'm not. I didn't. Who is your clinical coach?
Jean Tillman.
Okay. My understanding is that you will follow the system that you were under when you came in the spring. And that means you will stay on that calendar. You will submit work to task stream. There will be comments. I think, unless she has misinterpreted, I think that she is assuming that you're a new student.
No, she knows I'm not. She's the same one I had since the beginning.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the way it works for the continuing people. It is for the new people. But
there are some changes. I read the new handbook and there were changes about our end of semester disposition or something, and the competencies and having evidence to meet the 21 competencies, which is a change from last semester.
That's why I said I don't believe y'all are under that.
But it spells it out in the handbook. It says if you were before fall of 2016, then you now have to do one evidence for the 21 competencies, but fall 2016 and after has to do 3. When before we didn't have to do that at all.
Oh.
So I am completely confused. And it also said that our professor before would give us comments and stuff, and that our professor now won't give us any comments. You'll just use this 5-part checklist to
Mhm.
tell us to send it to task stream, but
Right.
not give us comments on the
Discussion
artifacts.
board.
So I'm just completely confused. I don't understand how the program changed midway through.
I thought you would be under the old rules. That was my understanding.
And it says like all artifacts that are due or worked on during the course have to be like submitted by week 11 and are evaluated during week 12. And then if it didn't pass, then you have week 13 to resubmit with changes or something. So it's a completely different system. And I'm just confused because looking at the schedule that you sent out, we're still submitting stuff after week 11.
Right.
But the new handbook says that everything has to be submitted before.
I will double check with the department chair to make sure, but I believe that you're still under the original handbook that you came under, and that you will stay on that schedule.
I'm sorry, my internet like went out for a second. What did you say?
I will check with the department chair, but my understanding is that you will stay under the handbook that you started under, that you won't do competencies, that you will still submit work to task stream for comments, that I do grade the work and I tell you when it's ready in discussion board. I don't comment on the work in task stream, but I comment on the work in Blackboard in discussion board. That is my understanding, and I'm a full-time person, and so that was my understanding, but I will double check.
Yes, I just feel like everyone has a completely different understanding of how this is working. Right. Therefore, I have no understanding of how it's working because everyone is saying something different.
But I will check with the department chair, and I will have a firm answer for you shortly. Okay. I will do that, but I am continuing under the assumption that you're under the old handbook, that we're on the same schedule, that you aren't doing competencies, that you are submitting work to me and for peer review, and then when I tell you it's ready to go to task stream, you take it to task stream. Once it's in task stream, it is still reviewed, and then changes are made there, and then someone tells you in task stream when to submit it for evaluation. But if that's not the case, I will find that out. But I believe you're still under the same structure that you were in the spring and the summer, is my understanding. But I'll double check to make sure.
Okay.
Because I was in the meeting last week, and that's what I heard, but maybe I heard wrong.
How do we know who our clinical coach is? Because mine apparently changed, but I have no idea who it is.
The assignments came out about an hour ago.
Oh, okay.
My clinical coach contacted me last week.
Okay. I don't know how or why, because seriously, I'll show you. Let me go.
I had Dr. Pickard, and he told me that he was going to keep me, and then he'd given me information telling me no, it had changed, and he asked me who it was. I said, I have no idea who it is.
So you don't know what your clinical coach is saying about the whole process, because mine for sure said that she has nothing to do with the artifacts anymore at all, and that there will be no comments in task stream. The only feedback we'll receive before it goes to evaluation is from the peer reviews that we do. That's what I was told.
Can you read the screen?
Yes.
Can y'all see the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
At 5:39 p.m. today, assignments came out, as you can see. They were tentative until that time. You had the ones that you had previous to that, just temporarily, but the final assignments came out at 5:39 p.m. today.
Okay.
We'll find out, but I'll find out for you what handbook you're under. But just continue.
That would be very helpful, because I'm like, if everything we have to do this semester is due for evaluation at the end of this semester, that's completely different than what I was under, and I now feel rushed to get things done.
I agree. That will be a strain. So let me get out of this. But we'll assume right now that we're that we're still under the old handbook until we hear differently. And I'll find it out for you and get that to you. And I'll make sure everybody gets that. I'll get that as soon as I can. I'll be back on main campus tomorrow and I'll find out.
Thank you.
Okay.
I usually do better face to face. All right, let me do a quick review. I know probably don't, but has anybody heard from Jeff Joyce? He's the only one of our classmates who's not done his enrollment verification. Anybody's heard from Jeff? I need to hear from him. I've emailed him a couple of times. Everybody else has completed their evaluation. I think everybody has now sent me their information sheet, except for one. As soon as I get that last information sheet from students, I will post those. I'll either put them on Blackboard or email or both, so you can have information on your classmates. Please remember that you have 10 components due this semester to me. Those 10 components will be peer reviewed in writing. You will post those in discussion board. I have a place for you to put them. The 2 final evidence narratives that are a composite of the SCIP and the OMA, those are to be peer reviewed by Zoom. Again, if you don't know how to use Zoom, the new candidate handbook has a section on how to do peer review by Zoom. I'll let you read that and do that. I do have your Zoom groups down here at the bottom. You are the first person on each of those groups is the Zoom master for that session. Make sure you get in touch with your others. The emails are right here. I also have, I sent you everybody's email. I think I actually posted it somewhere in here too. Let's see if I posted it under, intern materials. Let me look and see. I did a spreadsheet for you with everybody's, no, not there. Let's see. Maybe I put it under syllabus. Peer review for candidates. Yep. Let's see what's under there. I have the system here. If you don't know how to do peer review, I know you all know how to do it, but it's under here. And so stop share. Go back to share screen. Okay, let me go back to course overview. Okay. Student information is right here. This is where you go to find the email address of the people who are in your group under student information. The candidate handbook outlines again how to do Zoom peer reviews. You only have 2 of those. The rest are all written. Let's see. Okay, I think that's everything. Any questions on peer reviews? Remember, the 10 components are done individually in writing as before, and they are put into discussion board. The 2 final submissions, the OMA and the SCIP, are done as peer reviews, and you will email me those links. They're done as Zoom peer reviews. And here are your groups right here. Again, the first person is the Zoom master in the group. All right. So I think that covers everything. All right. So let's look at our weekly schedule quickly. The 603 weekly schedule, tonight's lesson was about preventive law, developing risk and crisis management plans. Our discussion board was for you to locate. Share.
You're watching NFL Insider, presented by Toyota.
Little Caesars, home of the $5 Home Ready Classic, is driving your taste buds crazy. With our new loaded crazy bread bites for just $4. We start with our world famous crazy bread, cut into delicious bite-sized pieces. Then we add up the flavor with creamy cheddar cheese sauce, mozzarella, and monster cheese, and
Okay.
bacon, all baked to
My
perfection.
share is not responding.
The side of jalapenos. Try our loaded crazy bread bites for just $4. Only at Little Caesars. This is Chef. Another many ways. Sharp words. It's here, but it's
Can y'all still hear me?
Yes.
All right. It says share is not responding right now in Zoom. It'll take a second. Hopefully it'll come back in just 1 second here.
before and after the blades. Shields from your
There it comes. All right. Share screen. Weekly schedule. All right, can y'all see the weekly schedule now?
Yes.
Okay, Zoom's back with me now. All right, developing risk management plans, assessing school safety plans. Your first discussion board was to locate copies of school emergency plans. Most of you have done that. And skip C is due this week in discussion board for peer review. All right, so those of you who are with me tonight, what surprised you about your school safety plans? Most everybody said they were pretty easy to find. Was there any issues, problems, any surprises about locating your emergency plans?
No.
So that all went well? Well, good. Good. All right. So I'll move on from that. All right. First thing I want to start with tonight, new share, is an assessment inventory checklist. All right. As all of you know, nobody gets the battlefield promotion anymore. What that means is everybody has to be an assistant principal. Nobody gets to go from classroom teacher to being a principal. So you got to serve as an AP. Generally, when you serve as an AP, more than likely, things like this will be your responsibility in terms of the safety plan, the crisis box, and the assessment inventory. Now, the assessment inventory is for campus safety, to make sure the building is safe from dangers, fire hazards, and those kinds of things. So let me point out to you, under North Carolina General Statute 115C 288, duties and responsibilities of the principal. Everybody knows that you have to do a monthly fire drill. What most people don't know is that 2 times a month, you are supposed to inspect the building for safety issues, dangers, fire hazards, and those kinds of things. Generally, the custodian, it goes around with the assistant principal, and they do that twice a month. That will be your job as the new AP. Wherever you go, you'll get that because nobody wants to do that. Now, generally, 1 time a year, the fire marshal will come out, and both you and the custodian will do that same inventory with the fire marshal. So you know how to do fire drills because you've been teachers all these years. You know what a fire drill is. That's done every month. But twice a month, you have to do the regular inspection for fire hazards. So what are you going to be looking for when you go out and do that? I have composed a document that I used when I was in the central office in CMS for our people there. You will have one similar to this in your district that somebody has made up or will have used the one from the state. And these are the things that you're going to look for twice a month. This is part and parcel of your safety plan, is that you will do an assessment inventory of your physical environment. Bus loading and drop-off zones are clearly defined and separated parent private transportation pickups. What that means is you can't have cars in your bus lot. You have to have separate zones for those. That means you're more than likely going to have somebody on supervision to make sure that parents that are in a hurry don't run up in the bus lot and dump their kids off. That tends to be a problem at schools all over the state. That is a clear violation. The fire marshal will cite you for that if the fire marshal comes out and that happens. Bus and car zones are separated. The students don't have to walk through traffic to enter the school building. There's a elementary school down in Garner that where I had an intern. He just finished this summer. They did their parking lot in tiers, so that kids had to walk through car traffic. Parents would turn into the different tier levels of the parking area instead of waiting in line to get up to the school and drop their kids off. And I was there a couple of mornings, and kids were walking between cars and 4 or 5 different little mini lots that they had that's kind of like a snake, like an S going up, and very unsafe. And so you'll have to figure out things like that. Other vehicles are prohibited from using bus loading and unloading zones during arrival and dismissal times. Most of you have signs on your campuses that say, no cars during certain periods of time. It'll be your responsibility to monitor and enforce that, so that there aren't, especially workmen, even workmen for your district, love to slip into the bus lot and park and run in and do those things. It'll be your responsibility to keep them from doing that. Student access to parking areas is restricted to posted arrival and dismissal times. This was always a biggie when I was a high school principal. You're not allowed to allow kids to go back to their cars during the day. They especially want to go back at lunchtime. You have to have some kind of control system. It'll be up to you to either monitor the one you have or to create one to keep kids out of the cars during the school day. That's a biggie at high schools. That one will make you pull your hair out. Surveillance outside. Directional informational signs have large lettering. You're supposed to have a sign that says, welcome to our campus. Visitors, please report to the main office. Those things. Video cameras. You're supposed to have video surveillance of at least the entrance of the entrances of your building. Many of you now have these card readers and cameras on your buildings. You're supposed to make sure that those things work and are serviceable, and that they are recording. You have signs in the rear that direct everybody to the front. You're not supposed to allow visitors or any other people in through the rear building, the rear of your building. Doors aren't supposed to be propped open, those kinds of things. Doors of the exterior kept closed and locked at all times. There are no exceptions of that. Now most school districts have gone to locking the front door and have that alarm system and video surveillance on the front. If you don't have that, you're supposed to have a parent volunteer monitoring that door in the front. Chains with locks are not used at any time. Secure doors, even those chains that that they wrap around the doors, especially on those that have the push bars, those are illegal. You're not ever supposed to prop those doors open with heavy objects either. Multiple entrances to the school building are controlled and supervised and inside for property security. That means at the end of when doors that remain locked between buildings, even at class change, those doors are not to be unlocked during the day so that people can slip in. Restricted areas are properly identified. Auditoriums, music, band rooms allow for adequate supervision, clear sight, and easy traffic flow. That one's a real problem with bleachers and those board dividers that we use in classroom and scenery from plays and those kinds of things. Those can't just be in the back hallway, especially if you have one of those gym cafetorium deals where kids eat lunch in there. You have to be really careful about that. And you have control points with clear sight lines going into and exiting your cafeteria, because we know that's a hot spot for trouble and for intruders. Safety equipment. This one's not a big deal anymore, but we used to have a private telephone line. Now people just use cell phones. But those numbers need to be in your crisis box. Your intercoms have to all be working in your classrooms. so that they can buzz the office in case of emergency. Classroom doors have working locks and vandal-proof handles, and any classroom that is unoccupied during the day is supposed to be locked. Just like lockers that aren't in use are supposed to be locked, so that things can't be hidden in there. People or things can't be hidden in those areas.
I'd be glad to help you reach out.
Mirrors, windows, and light covers and lavender are impact resistant. You're not supposed to have any glass in the bathrooms. All your doors are working. Doors to the boiler room and power supply room are solid with concealed hinges. Doors are kept closed and locked at all times. You will have trouble with this one. Hey, Luke, you will have trouble with this one with your custodians who prop doors open so they can get their equipment in and out. You're not supposed to do that. I had an issue in one of the high schools where the custodians took some of those wall dividers and sectioned off an area in the cafeteria to put chemicals so they wouldn't have to carry them all the way from their janitor's closet. That's not good. Can't do things like that. So you'll need to, to make sure that you monitor and work with your custodial staff. Lockers have to be secured that aren't being used. So if you have lockers in your building, even if you don't assign them to kids, they have to have a lock on them, or a lot of times people use those ties now. Fire extinguishers, you need to make sure that you check the dates on those and they're fully charged and they're not out of date. First aid kits are where they're supposed to be. Hazardous chemicals, including cleaning solvents, are properly labeled in the science labs, and they're in proper building, and they're not to be on the floor. Even in the chemical storage room, they're supposed to be on a shelf. They're not supposed to be on the floor. They're definitely not supposed to be just hidden around the corner in the cafeteria. Safety posters and emergency procedures have to be in all science lab where those eye wash stations are. You have to have ventilated storage for any equipment like floor sanders and buffers. Again, chemicals can't be on the two lower shelves of any cases or shelves. Bomb threat and crisis response guidelines are posted at the phone reception in the main office, and staff's been trained to do that. The crisis kit is present and complete in the main office. I'm going to go over crisis kit with you just in a minute. Fire evacuation plans are posted in all occupied areas of the building. Graffiti is read, recorded, and removed usually within 24 hours. Visitors sign in and sign out the main office and the log. Most of you are using the program, the computer program from Identikid now. You have to make sure that that's working. About half the schools I go to, they claim their card reader is down. That won't pass inspection from the fire marshal. Students are restricted from loitering in hoarders, calls, restrooms, and other areas. Every kid has to be supervised by an adult every minute of every day. There is no free time in public school where kids can be unsupervised and be where they want to be. No potential fire hazard or blocked emergency exits. That means you have to go down to the back of the gym and places like that where coaches tend to store equipment and throw stuff up against the side of the building and leave batteries out that go in lawnmowers and things like that. You can't have any of that stuff. And all ladders are stored in closet. And if you got any cords across the floor, they have to have a mat over them, and all the computer cords in the computer lab have to be zip tied together and out of the way. So this is what you will have to do twice a month as a new AP, you and the custodian, and once a year you will go around with the fire marshal. And these are the things that they'll be looking for. And again, remember, this is not just a if you get around to it kind of thing. This is under state law 115C 288 that twice a month you'll do this inventory. You'll do this inspection twice a month, and you'll do a fire drill once a month. You will be in charge of that as the new AP. You might as well go ahead and write that down right now. I can forewarn you on that. So that's the assessment inventory. It's part and parcel of your safety plan. All right, now the other part of your safety plan, if I can get it to show here, go to Zoom session 2, is your crisis box. Let's see if this is going to open. There it goes. All right, I hope that this will show within the window here. All right, here we go. Under the front counter in the front office of every school in the state of North Carolina, every public school is supposed to be a crisis response box. This is, again, a part of your safety plan, your emergency plan that I had you find, is that you will maintain your crisis box. Let me see. Now, what is in your crisis box? And this tells you the purpose of the box, research behind it, has links and reading and all those kinds of things, as the rationale as to why you have to have this. Okay. All right, components of the crisis response box: aerial photos of the campus, a campus map, the campus layout, blueprint of the school buildings, the teacher roster, master key, the fire alarm turn off and on procedures, the sprinkler system turn off procedures, utility shut off valves, gas line, utility line layout, cable television, satellite feed shut off, student photos. Now, generally this is on disk, done by the people who do your student IDs, if at all possible. Definitely you've got to have a recent roster. Your data manager is supposed to run off a new set, hard copy of student rosters every Monday morning. That's supposed to be updated in your box every Monday morning so that you can track kids down, you know where kids are supposed to be. And it's just like when you go out to the fire drill, teachers have to take their class roster with them. There should be a set of rosters, that same thing, that same theory. There should be a student roster in your crisis box. Incident command system, key responders phone number, who's in charge, what their phone numbers are. All right. Designated command posts and staging areas for law enforcement, a media staging area away from the school, and a parent center away from the command post. Yeah, you should have those. Emergency resource list, you should have that, and evacuation sites. Now, you're supposed to have 3 evacuation sites designated and maps in your crisis box. Those 3 sites are a on-campus site, a site not on campus but within walking distance, and then a site that you would load kids onto school buses and transport them to. For example, the first one would be like we all go to the stadium or the ball field. The second one would be as we walk down the street to the local church. The third one would be as we get on a bus and we go to the local shopping center or mall or the parking lot of a landmark like the Coliseum or something like that. So all of those are those evacuation sites. Those have been determined and are in your box. Student disposition forms and emergency data cards. That's what I was talking about. You should have class rosters in there. Student attendance inventory of staff resources, list of students with special needs. Your first responders should already know those if you have kids who need special assistance, who may be disabled. Your first aid supplies location. You should have emergency first aid supplies in there, including water and basic first aid kit. You need to have flashlights, those orange safety vests, those kinds of things. This explains it all to you, but I have covered the basics of this. This kit, and it tells you what your general emergency stuff and your first aid supplies. This kit, usually you buy a large storage box, one of the big box retailers, but this should be under the front office desk in the front office. And here's your checklist for all the things that you need. So this is, again, so you have a safety plan that speaks overall to all of these things, and then components of that safety plan are your crisis box and your campus assessment inventory. Generally, the fire marshal will check this crisis box that one time a year when they come, so you need to make sure it's up to date. The fire marshal will check all the things that I covered in the assessment inventory when he comes. He will do that. You need to do it twice a month and have your fire drill once a month. Questions about safety plans, crisis box, or assessment inventory? Everybody understands that that's more than likely going to be your job. Luke, did I speak to you? You doing okay?
I'm doing all right.
Great. All right, shifting gears quickly. There is no way I could cover all the general statutes of North Carolina, no matter how long I would spend on those. Let's see if I can get it to pop up.
While you're looking for that, does the fire marshal give you a heads up when they're coming, or is it just a surprise, or both? Just curious.
Actually, it's both. You know you're going to get one. They generally plan one at the beginning of the school year or right before the school year starts. That's a good question. In most places, the small towns, I worked in 2 large districts and 2 small districts during my career. And in the small districts, they would tell you when they were coming. You knew they were going to come the week before school started. And they would make an appointment and they'd show up on that day. In the large districts, you knew they were coming, but there was no courtesy call in the large district. They had so many schools to get to, but you knew that pretty much they were going to come the week before school started. Now, sometimes they would show up unannounced. For example, if something had happened at a school in your district that caused public concern, like a fire or a bomb threat or something, an emergency occurred at your school or another school, you could expect the fire marshal would be out, fairly quickly after that to make sure that it wasn't going to happen at your school. So it's kind of both. Okay. That's a great question. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right. Do you see North Carolina General Assembly on the screen now?
Yes.
All right. If you click on that link that I have on Zoom too, it'll take you to the North Carolina General Statutes. The ones for education are General Statute 115C, and they go 1 through 545. And they cover everything about public school. I'm going to hit some highlights tonight of some things that I think are important. It would behoove you to spend some time with this. I've only got about 20 minutes, and so obviously I'm not going to get to all of these. I picked a couple that go along with tonight's lesson. Let's see, 27. Development, improvement, and approval of school improvement plans. You know that the school safety plan is a part of the school improvement plan, so that one is the law that says that you have to do that. Let's see, 33. This is it, safe and orderly schools. That's also part of the safety plan, and this one basically speaks to if your school is not orderly or unsafe, the school improvement team or parents can request that the state get involved. So you need to make sure that it is safe. That's an important thing, and parents watch those kinds of things. See, here's the law, schematic diagrams, emergency response information provided to the Division of Emergency Management. See, all that stuff is there. Access to school buildings for local law enforcement agents, school crisis kits. The reason why you have to have one is because 115C 105.52 legislates that you have to have one. That's not an optional thing. So everything that I cover with you this semester is not just my opinion or things that I think you ought to have. There's a law behind why you have to have what you have to have. And I'm not covering everything, but I'm going to cover in my sessions things that I think are relevant to you as a new AP. That things that more than likely that you're going to have to be responsible for. You're going to have to be responsible for the school crisis kit. You're going to have to be responsible for all the things that we've covered tonight. And here are the law that says, yeah, you got to do that. So the first thing that I want to cover tonight, I'm going to skip some things because in the interest of time, y'all want to watch the ball game and don't want to listen to me all night. I know you are. I know you all want to watch the ball game. Most important one of all these is 288, the duties and powers of the principal. This covers you as an AP too. So let's make sure we understand what your legal responsibilities are. The first one is to grade and classify pupils. Teachers assign, teach kids and give them grades, but you in the end are legally responsible to assign that grade and determine whether they're going to pass or not. And the law says you can't make that decision solely on the basis of standardized test scores. And so it's not a good practice to go back and change teachers' grades, but sadly sometimes that has to be done, and that falls under the principal's purview. That you are the person who assigns the final grade. The principal does. Usually the principal consults with the AP and they gather the information. To make accurate reports to the superintendent and the local board, these are all the required things that you have to do. All the paperwork from the central office. The primary two and the most important two of those reports that also go to Raleigh are the SAR, the Student Activity Report, and the, what is it? PPAR, attendance report, the monthly attendance report. The SAR and the PAR, I guess it is. So those are the two that matter the most. To that end, you take attendance every day. It's scanned in electronically into NCWise. That is generated. That calculation goes into average daily membership. We'll cover this more in depth later this semester. Schools are funded by the state based on average daily membership, not on enrollment. Let me say that again. If you have 1,000 kids enrolled in your school and your monthly attendance average is for the 20 days of the school month is 95%, that meant that 950 kids attended on a daily basis. You only get funding from the state for 950 kids. That's why it's important to make sure that you monitor and try to make sure kids come to school regularly, because it's a money thing. It's money coming to the district for your school. The state funds only the number of kids that attend, not the number that are enrolled. So that's why your principal's monthly report, PMR, that covers attendance, that's the acronym PMR. Make sure that you understand that that's very important. If that is in any way falsified, you'll have, not only will you get fired, you'll have to make restitution for the money that the state overpaid. So you've got to make sure your attendance is accurate. It's got to be taken every day. You get funded on average daily membership. Now, a further explanation is this. The state does not pay up front, and they don't pay by the year. They pay by the month, and they pay after the month is over. That's called the modified accrual accounting system. We'll cover that later this semester. So what that means is we'll make some nice round numbers here. You have 10 school months. They divide by 10 the money that they're going to give you per pupil. So let's say they're going to give you $6,000. The state's going to give you $6,000 this year per pupil. They don't give you the $6,000 on August 25th. After the first month of school, they will reimburse. You have to pay for the first month as a school district. They will reimburse and give you 1/10. They'll give you a tenth of that 6,000. So at the end of the first month, you'll get $600 per pupil, and you only get the $600 for the ones that attended, not the ones on the roll. So you have to make an accurate report, and you have to encourage attendance, and you have to follow up on attendance because it is a money issue. in better economic times, school districts kept up to 6 months of operating money on hand. They don't do that anymore. And usually they only have a month or two now, and they can't afford for the state not to send the money because there's a problem with the accounting procedures. So that's monitored very closely. Now, the other accurate report that you must make every month is called the School Activity Report, or SAR. That is a report that's generated once you put your master schedule in. That report speaks to class size. There are class size limits. It speaks to teacher certification, teacher qualification in terms of highly qualified. It speaks to a number of those issues. And the one thing you do not want to happen as a school administrator is for what your master schedule conducts every day, or what goes on in your master schedule every day, not to be what comes out on that, not to match what comes out on your school activity report. So when you generate your school activity report every month and it says that, Jill has a class of an English class with 30 students in it, second period, and somebody comes and does an audit, and they go down to Jill's classroom second period, and she's got 45 students in there, but we only showed 30, so she wouldn't violate the state policy on class size limits. We're in trouble as an administrator. So whatever is actually happening in your school better be reflected on the SAR. You got teachers, especially maybe in middle schools, that are certified in math and science. And you got teachers who are certified in language arts and social studies, and you're trying to do some team teaching, and you actually have the math science teacher teaching language arts or social studies, and you don't have that in your school activity report. That's not going to be good for you. So everything that goes on in your school must be translated into the master schedule, and that must be fed into NCWISE because it generates a school activity report. So those are the primary two reports that have to be dead on accurate every month. There are other reports that come out, but those are the major two. But it tells you, again, daily attendance. But if you willfully make a false report, like putting 45 kids in Jill's class and only telling the state that there's 30 in there, that means you will have your license revoked and you will lose your job. That's what a class 1 misdemeanor means. So that's very important. To improve instruction and community spirit, the principal shall give suggestions to teachers for the improvement of instruction. Basically, that's the APTEL that you do as one of your evidence artifacts, is that you work with teachers on Marzano's high yield strategies, because that improves instruction. It's also the basis of how they will be evaluated as teachers. Conduct fire drills, inspect for fire hazards. I already showed you that one. Again, as the AP, you'll have to do that. It says that you have to conduct a fire drill during the first week of the opening of school, and thereafter at least one fire drill each month. And you have to inspect each of the buildings and is charged at least twice a month. That's what I was talking about. You and the custodian got to go around twice a month. Cafeterias, gymnasiums, boiler room, storage room, auditorium, stage, well as classrooms. All those things that are on that assessment inventory, that's what they're looking for. And you have to keep copies of written reports on file. To discipline schools and assign duties to teachers regarding the discipline, general well-being, and medical care of students. You have to have the authority to exercise discipline over students. You have to use due process. We'll cover that later this semester too. But you do have to discipline students and assign duties to teachers. And that assigned duties, as we talked about, are the two ancillaries to your master schedule. That's duty roster and supervision schedule. So that is state mandated. Not only do you have to have a master schedule that translates into the SAR, you have to have a duty roster and a supervision schedule. Remembering that the duty roster is for supervision during the school day, places like the cafeteria, the auditorium, the bus lot, those things. And then the then the supervision schedule is for after school activities. And you have to assign those duties. Again, it's not a best practice to just put a sign-up sheet in the teacher's lounge. That's hope. That's not a plan. If you have an after-school activity, a kid gets hurt, more than likely you couldn't prevent it anyway. But when they sue you, you go to court and you say, well, nobody signed up for that activity, so we didn't have anybody there supervising. That won't go well. So it's your legal responsibility to assign duties to teachers, not just have a sign-up sheet. All right, to protect school property, to report certain acts to law enforcement and the superintendent. We're going to go over this one in depth later on, because this is the one and not maintaining your local accounts adequately financially. These are the two things that get you going as an administrator the fastest, is that you don't report things that you're supposed to law enforcement. It becomes public knowledge. The police throw you under the bus, as they should, and things don't go well. And so there are 16 acts of crime and violence. 9 of those count against you in your persistently dangerous calculation. I'll cover that with you later. But you just need to know that there are certain things. I was the person responsible in the central office. I was the deputy at that time. Schools would call me and say, we've got a gun on campus. And the first question I'd ask them is, did you call the police? Well, no. We'll hang up and call the police. There is protocol. Police have to be notified before. Now, you're supposed to notify the superintendent's office that when things like that happen, but they're second. The police are first. There can't be any question that there's any cover-up or any shady dealings going on. If you don't have a police officer assigned to your campus, then you've got the number of the local SRO at a nearby school. You're to call them immediately when one of these acts of crime and violence occur. And here's the law that says that, and we'll cover this more in depth. And again, it says the principal or principals shall notify the superintendent or superintendent's designee regarding any report made to law enforcement. That means you've already called them first. You don't call the superintendent's office first. The law is very clear on that. Again, this is not Dale's opinion. The law is very clear. You make the report to law enforcement, then you make the call to the superintendent's office, reporting to them that you reported this incident to law enforcement. And that's the way the law is written. And it's written that way for a purpose. Okay, let's read that again. You have to notify the superintendent or the superintendent's designee in writing or by email regarding any report made to law enforcement. So the order there is not in question. We call in to the police, or on the radio or on the phone, we call the police when we have an act of crime and violence in our building. Then we call the superintendent's designee. All right, make available school budgets and school improvement plans. Again, we saw that there is a statute that says that every school has to have a school improvement team that forms a school improvement plan. But the one thing that I sometimes get students tell me is when they go to their administrative team, they'll tell them that they don't give out copies of the school budget. The law says you do. You have to make available school budgets and allow parents of children in the school and any other interested person to review those documents. Your school budget is a public document that must be available for inspection for anybody that walks in the front door. And so later on this semester, when I have you locate a copy of your school budget, I certainly hope that you won't have a problem with that. To evaluate licensed employees and develop mandatory improvement plans, have staff development, have action plans, those kinds of things. We'll talk about those more later. To transfer student records and to sign driving eligibility certificates if you're in a high school, and notify DMV if a kid has gotten in trouble and is going to have his license revoked. To establish school improvement teams, we've already covered that one. And the newest one is to address the unique needs of military-connected students, which means the principal shall develop a means for serving unique needs of students identified as military connected under all those. Not quite McKinney-Vento. Now, everybody knows what McKinney-Vento students are. Those are homeless, that you have to make provisions for homeless students that move around a lot. Those same type of provisions have to be made for military kids who tend to move around a lot. Basically, what that means is you can't penalize them for coming late or leaving early. That's you have to make accommodations for that. Okay, so this is 288. I would encourage you to spend some time with all of these statutes. Again, there are 545. Most of them aren't pertinent to you, but there are a lot in there that are. This one is the most relevant to you. There are some in there that speak to instructional time and duty-free time and those kinds of things. I've kind of put those together in one document for you and showed it to you last week when I covered the OMA. But you need to look at the original. You'll begin to see some rhyme and reason to the topics that I cover in my weekly Zoom session, things that you think, well, that's, is that really important? Well, if there's a law behind it, it's really important. And remember, I have picked the things that I think that will be most relevant to you as a new administrator, because you're more than likely going to be the one to be in charge of it. Please remember that I did a skip review. I recorded it one day this week and posted it on YouTube. I sent you a link. So if you need help with your skip, I did you a short one. I think it's about 13 minutes long. If you need to do that. Again, I will, Kelly, if you're still listening, I will find out about where we are with the different handbooks, but we'll continue on with the thought process that you're under the old one and that you have the 10 components due this semester, and that we get those to task stream and that they'll be reviewed there. If that's not the case, I will let you know. I should be able to find that out tomorrow. I see that my time is up. Jill, you still with me?
I'm here.
I've got Luke.
I'm here.
All right. Any questions for tonight? Did I cover anything that you weren't aware of tonight?
Not really.
Okay. So, was everything understandable?
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, the clock on the wall just hit 8 o'clock. Anything else for the good of the group before I go tonight? Remember, you can call me or email me if you need something. I can do a little Zoom record, like I did this week, where for Jewel, where I recorded a little session for her. I'll be glad to record sessions for you. I answer emails. I'll answer my phone.
Okay.
So whatever you need, just let me know. Keep up with your evidence artifact work, and then again, your weekly activities and your discussion board. Try to stay on schedule, but you're on your own on those. There's no weekly turn-in deadlines or any of that. Just make sure you keep up with your evidence artifact work, because others in the class are depending on you for your peer reviews and for you to put your work in so they can peer review it.
So
that is
when you put the peer review in, when you turn in your artifacts, when does it become available for us to do the peer review?
All right. As soon as you drop it into
The Dropbox.
You drop it into discussion board, and as soon as you put it in discussion board, it's available to be peer reviewed by everybody else. And you put your peer reviews back in discussion board. And once you have it peer reviewed and it's ready for task stream, that's when you put it in assignment Dropbox in Blackboard.
Oh.
And I will grade it then. But all the peer review work is done through discussion board. So that's a good question. Let's go back and look at that right quick. Share screen.
Is there a certain number we have to peer review, or?
All the components.
Well, I mean, like a certain number of peers. Do we have to?
One for each. One for
Okay.
each component. That's in. Let me go back to. Let me go
I'm
back
pretty
to.
sure I wrote that down, but I just wanted to make sure. Yeah. Last,
Let
yeah.
me go back and let me make sure that my. I'm going to turn some of this stuff off. Okay. I think my Blackboard session deserted me. It normally does. But that's a good question, Jill. Let me go back and look. I'm going to cover those right quick. I don't want to take too much of your time here, but I'm on a new Blackboard. Let's get rolling. Okay. As I said, Jill, in course overview, it tells you right here, one component from the other candidates for each of the 10 required components. So you got to do one written one. You pick whichever one you want. And then the final submissions, the Skip and the OMA, those you will peer review by Zoom. And then your Zoom groups are down here. Now to Luke's question, discussion board, you go to discussion board and you will see a place at the end of the questions where you put all of your components in for peer review. Right here they are, all 10 of them for peer review. All right. There's another page that goes behind this one. Now, when you post it there, people can go on your thread, and that's where they post a review of your work. And you can go on their thread where they posted theirs and post your review of their work. So all of your peer review work is done here in discussion board. Now, once you get your component peer reviewed, you think it's ready for task stream, and you're getting ready to go, and you would then take it to task stream, but you would also drop it in assignment Dropbox. And what that does is allow me to assign you a grade on all of these, and I don't have to do written tests. This is how I generate your grades to give you a score. The college requires me to give you at least a midterm and a final, and they like to see other grades other than that. And so as you can see, if we go to the grade center, full grade center, some of you are already accumulating your points. So it's easy for me to see how many points you got. So right here on this total, some of you have 100, some of you have 200 already. It takes 1,400 points to, if you have 1,400 points, you pass the course. And if you have, I think it's 1,600, you make an A. It's just that simple. That's how people say, well, what's your grading scale, or how did you determine my grade? Well, right there it is. There's your class assignment. It's really easy for me, and I can see what you have turned in and what you haven't turned in. I have a spreadsheet right here that I use. I set mine up this way, so you know exactly where you are. You know how you get yours. So again, all of your peer review work, the written peer review, will be done in discussion board. And then once you get your work completed and it's ready to be graded, you stick it in assignment Dropbox. I grade it, and you're good to go. It goes to task stream. You do not have to wait on me to grade it. I grade every day, but when it's ready to go to task stream, you can put it in task stream first and then put it in for me.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Questions that you have? All right. Go Panthers. I'll see y'all next week. Good night.
Have
Night.
a good night.